Welcome. Hi. So just once again, this is Kim Ware. We are coming toward the end of our class session together, and I'm always amazed how fast 8 weeks really goes and how much material we cover in 8 weeks. So I'm just so proud of this cohort and your group, all the conversation on Yellow Dig and the assignments that have come through. I can see you growing in your writing and your ability to apply concepts. And that, of course, is always just music to an instructor's heart. So let me get started by sharing with you the screen for assignment number 5 and just do a brief walkthrough of what I expect. So for this assignment, it's your interpersonal communication, interview, and analysis. So the heart of this assignment is for you to see the differences and the similarities between workplace communication and family communication. And it's also worth the most points in the class. So it's a good opportunity for you to flex your interpersonal communication muscles and just show what you have learned over the last 8 weeks. Now you'll notice it says record, but record means write. You do not need to submit video interviews for me to watch. You just need to write down the answers. You have 10 questions, and these questions are the same for the family member and also for the workplace. Just like assignment number 1, if you don't know anybody who can answer these questions for you, or you feel uncomfortable asking these questions and writing these things down, you're welcome to A, make something up, or B, select a TV show or a movie and write from the perspective of 1 or 2 of those characters. And if you need help trying to figure out an appropriate movie or a TV show, just let me know. I have a couple up my sleeve that I can share with you. Now, when you get down to the analysis, which is where I'm scrolling, this is a bulleted list. I'm actually going to count and say, do you have 8 bullets? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I'm looking to see, are you comparing and contrasting? Most students use the concepts from the questions to compare and contrast. So for example, the last question that you could see is, what are friendships like in your work? Any work romances? So you might say something like, in my family, there are no, quote, friendships because we all have a familial relationship. We don't go beyond the bounds of family to get into self-disclosure. In contrast, in the workplace, because we aren't intimately involved in each other's lives, the workplace interviewer said, yeah, there's an opportunity for friendship and there's more friendships there. And then you can go on with romances if you want to. You could
I got a question on that, because you know what? I'm an owner of a company.
Okay.
And romances at work are not permitted.
That's true. They do happen though. So
you can lose your job for them happening. You know that.
Yes. Yes, I do. So you can write about that. There are no romances. It's strictly forbidden. You can lose your job. So that's a moot point. Whereas in the family, like we're not looking at like biblical, where you got to do your duty to develop a romance or relationship with, your brother, sister, or whatever, to keep the family line going. But maybe like, I don't know, there's a romance because people are married. I don't know. I am like totally digging a hole for myself. You can just ignore all that, but you understand, you understand what I'm saying for all intents and purposes of explaining that. So Michael, thanks for saying that. And that's true. So it's a great opportunity for people.
Yeah, it was just something I was wondering as I did the assignment. That's all.
Yeah, it's a good question. And some people are like, yeah, cool. Well, because if you ever seen The Office, the TV show, Jim and Pam.
I never watched it though.
Oh, well, if you have kind of a dry sense of humor, you'd probably enjoy it. It's worth watching the first couple episodes to see what we're talking about.
I am really weird. I can't handle slapstick comedy and I can't handle dry humor. I'm just weird, I guess. I don't know.
It just needs to be like in your face, funny, ironically funny, maybe.
I'm actually a musician too. And I've played professionally for a lot of years. So I've been in people's faces and I've talked to people. I'm just weird about it like that.
Yeah, well, everybody has their stuff, huh? Yeah, so I'm not like a sci-fi person at all. It's just not my thing. So anyway, moving on, let's take a look at the analysis. So the analysis should be about a paragraph for each, at least. And I need to see that you are applying concepts from the course overall. I posted a video recently, I think 2 days ago, that details communication patterns, just explain the difference between upward communication, downward communication, horizontal communication. So take a look at that if you don't know what I'm talking about. And then in the next two, where you're actually giving advice, if they're doing really well and you don't have any advice to offer, encourage them to keep doing something. Just like I said at the very beginning of the course, the biggest deal is that I need to see that you understand the concepts. So if their family is groovy, throw something in there. Like, I encourage them to keep using their listening styles. They do a great job switching back and forth between critical listening, or when someone has a really bad day, they use empathetic listening with each other, which is, and then give me those definitions. And this is really the bulk of you continuing to develop your muscles to do deep analysis and show synthesis of understanding. Because as you work your way up in the courses, specifically in the bachelor's program, if you're going to do that, you're going to see some writing that's tougher. And this is a great way to practice and get some of that skill under your belt. So do you have any questions about the interview and analysis assignment? No? Okay, good. So let me just flip over to what I hope is going to be the next assignment. That is the reflection assignment. And it's not, let's see here. Yes. So this reflection assignment, when you go to school at Bryan University, you have to have a communication credit. Now, you all lucked out if public speaking isn't your thing, because you didn't have to take a public speaking class, and that is available at Bryan. So this is like my one shot to give you a chance to do a little public speaking. The requirement is that you do a short video of yourself, no longer than 5 minutes, please, and just answer these 3 questions. I'll be the only one who sees it. And if that stresses you out, just let me know, and I'm happy to work with you. This is due on Tuesday of next week. Okay. Cool. All right. So I'm going to leave the student view. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and I am going to bounce over to a video that I want to show you on everything wrong with interviewing, and hopefully you'll get a real kick out of it. So maybe you could give me, like, Karen, like a thumbs up if you can hear it.
John?
Sorry, I'm late. Are you Susan? I'm here for the job interview.
I'm Susan Thompson, Resource Manager. You're 10 minutes late.
The traffic was terrible.
Have a seat. Are you John Hill?
Yeah,
Okay, tell me about yourself.
my main hobbies are watching classical movies, riding my motorcycle, and I have 2 granddaughters. They're so cute. Let me show you.
Oh, that's okay. I'll take your word for it. Do you have a resume?
I turned it in with my application.
Okay. All right, it says here.
Look, I found them. Aren't they adorable? And wait, there's my dog. Isn't that cute?
Very cute. It says here that you only had your last job for a couple of months. Can you tell me why it was so short?
You know, I hated that place. My supervisor was such a jerk. All he did was complain about my work.
Oh, what was the problem?
Oh, they had all these rules. I followed the most important ones the best I could, but he would get mad if I didn't follow all the rules all the time.
I see. Well, can you tell me why you want to work here?
Oh yeah, somebody told me you guys have a really good dental policy. I've got trouble with this tooth right here. It needs a lot of work.
Okay, I think I've heard enough. Do you have any questions for me?
You know, what does this place do?
Well, We have a restaurant and we make frozen desserts that are shipped all across the country.
Oh, cool.
Well, it's been nice meeting you.
Well, now when will I know if I get the job?
We'll make phone calls tomorrow.
Okay, see you later.
See ya.
Okay, what do you think? Is he gonna get that job?
Hi, Prasad.
Hi, Kate Johnson. Nice to meet you.
There's no help for
Oh,
that
whoops,
dude, man.
something's still going. Hang on.
Please tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm
Oh,
currently
where'd it
finishing
go?
a Master's of Education program at Lake Erie College and working
We do
on
not want that
transitioning
one.
from a
Stop. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
All
there's
right.
no help for that guy.
There's no help. I know he needs some serious coaching, doesn't he?
Nah, I think
I
it's a
think-
little too late for him, actually.
Yeah, I think he's lucky he didn't get rejected right at the moment right there.
Truly, truly. So let's just talk about this interview and let me give you some tips for interviewing based on everything that this guy did wrong. I titled this top 5 tips for interviewing, but really there's a lot more than 5, but it got you in the door, right? You're here. You're going to be here for the interview. So we watched this video. And the first thing that we notice is that he did not do a very good job selecting the employer. So was he able to tell them anything about himself? No, I mean, he wasn't.
Professionally, no. But like professionally, he didn't say nothing what his skills are.
That's right. He launched in with, oh, I like to watch movies. I like my motorcycle. My grandkids are awesome. And he didn't even know what they did. So before the application, there are 3 things you really need to research to be prepared to go into the employer, because at the end of the day, you don't want to waste your time and you don't want to waste the employer's time. And you want to make sure that at least in your mind, you are a great fit for this job. So before the application, it is important to take a look at yourself. What are your strong points? What are your qualities? What do you know? And a lot of this happens during the interview, not the interview, but the resume process, because you're putting yourself out there on paper and you're writing this cover letter to say, here's what I think about is great about you. Here's what I think is great about me. And I think we could be a really good fit in the workplace. So make sure before you apply that you know what your skills are. Now, in the position, is there wiggle room for learning? Absolutely. One time my husband got a job, he's in the tech field, and they give you a paper to analyze, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at this? And how good are you at that? And the reason he got the job is because he didn't give himself 10s for every single skill, because he acknowledged that he still had room to grow. And that can be one of your talking points for why you're selecting this position. But at least make sure that in the position, you would feel comfortable on day 1 stepping in and doing the job. Now, you might think that the position and the employer are the same thing, but they're not. So the position is going to happen within a context of that employment. So Michael, you own your own business. You might be thinking right now, oh, so what's it like to work in my field? What is my employment situation like? So you might look for articles on the employer to see how do they really treat their employees. Is it possible to find a track record of how often they give raises? Do they have insurance? And what is the culture like? So hopefully from assignment 2, where we did a deep dive into Abril Associates, which is a fake company, but you got a handle on what are the different types of cultures? What are the kinds of contexts, high context, low context? Am I a person who does not rely heavily on nonverbal cues? Is this what these people are like? Are they just very straightforward and use their words? Or is there a lot to be read in between the lines? So make sure that you research yourself, understand the position you're applying for, but also know who the employer is. Do you have any questions about that? No? Okay, good. So let's say that you get a call back and you get the job. Now, if you Google types of interviews, you're going to see 1,001 different kinds of interviews. Today, I want to focus on 3 specific types of interviews that I think happen most often. We have first the behavioral interview. a technical interview, and a social interview. And I tend to think these happen in this order. If you've already gone through the interviewing process several times, after I delineate what they are, maybe you would have more to share with me about what your experience has been. So the behavioral interview, any ideas what the behavioral interview might be about?
Is it like the assessment test before, like as soon as you apply, they kind of give you like 15, 20 questions to see what is your strong role, how
Yeah.
you communicate?
That's really good. That's close. I mean, an employer could include something like that. The behavioral interview is really what was happening in this Sorry I'm Late. He came in and she asked him, tell me about yourself. So in the behavioral interview, you are telling past experiences and examples of behaviors that show that you have the knowledge, skill, and ability. Now, it is not inappropriate for him to say, hi, my name is Michael. I've been living in the area for the last 10 years, and I'm looking to develop my skill set and share what I know with your company. And then maybe he would say, for instance, I used to work this. This is not a time to start talking and showing pictures of his grandchildren. So the behavioral interview is exactly what it looks like. It's behavior. Do you have the skill set and the knowledge to actually do this job? So that quiz could be a part of it. That might come in too within either of these technical interviews and social interviews. The technical interview is going to be some kind of test. So if you are in web development, or I mean, really any of the fields that you all are working towards, web development, HIM, paralegal, fitness, they might ask you to perform some sort of skill to show that you know what you're doing. If you're a web developer, maybe they're going to ask you to write code or like make something, program something. If you are a fitness professional, maybe they're going to ask you to come in and do a class and just see what you're made of. If you are now, health information systems is something I'm less understand, but I'm guessing there's codes of things you're supposed to do and not do. So they might ask you to actually, code something. And the same thing with paralegal. Do you understand legalese? Do you, are you able to write what the reports? Again, I'm taking a little bit of a leap because I'm not a paralegal, but I'm assuming that you write stuff for the lawyer and that you help do their research. So that's with the technical interview. Now, if you make it past their behavioral interview and the technical interview, you can move on to the social interview. And again, these might not happen all in this order, but the social interview is where essentially we say, can you play nice with others? Are you going to be a good fit for our team? This might be lunch or coffee. And here is where the preparedness of knowing about the employer is really going to come into play. You need to be prepared to ask questions, even if you already know the answer about the company, about their team environment, work on some small talk, know some stories of things that you've done in the past, examples, so that you are able to engage in the interpersonal communication, maybe the small group communication with the people at the table. Anyone have any experiences with any of these types of interviews that you might want to share? Okay, so back in the day, I did the little sorority walk where you go to the different sorority houses and you see which one you want to pledge. So before you even make any judgments, I quit. I was in and then I was out, but no judgments. It can be great networking. But I went to one where my little 19-year-old self thought I was a shoo-in. And so they asked me if I had any questions. And I was like, no, I pretty much know everything. And I did not get a call back. And I was dumbfounded. I couldn't understand why they wouldn't call me back. And it's because I didn't show enough interest in their sorority or ask any questions. And if I could have found that middle ground and been excited about them, maybe they would have viewed me just a little bit differently. So these are the types of interviews. Again, when you Google them, you'll see 1,000 different ones, but I really think the majority of them fall into one of these three categories. So let's move on to just more preparation aspects of getting ready to interview. So before the interview, you want to be prepared with something called show and tell. So they ask you a question about your previous fitness experience. You say, I'm so glad you asked me that question. Always rephrase the question, just like we're working on in this course, into your topic sentence. Thank you for asking me about my fitness experience. And then I'm going to show what I've done and I'm going to tell about it. I will have a story prepared about a unique time to tell this lady, even though they are a restaurant business, to tell this lady about when I first started in my fitness journey and what that was like for me and how I have evolved into really having a passion for fitness, especially kickboxing. And because that is a special feature that they have, I'm so excited to join their team. And then maybe I would throw in some lingo about, particular kinds of kicks. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, so make sure you've got your box of cards ready in your head, or even have them written down in your car, so that before you walk into the interview, you're ready and you know what you've done and why you are good for this position. Now let's talk a little bit more about dressing the part. Okay, poor guy. How is he not dressed the part? What's wrong?
He certainly looks like he came in on the motorcycle that he was talking about.
He does, you're right. Does he look like he's ready to interface with this lady? Let's go back and take a look at her outfit. How is she dressed? She's like business casual. Earlier, we see her in a skirt. She has on a necklace. She looks like she belongs at work. Now, this dude does not look like he's ready for work. Not every business is going to be business casual. So don't fall for that myth. Know how they dress and maybe dress a step above. So for example, if you're going to go work at a place and when you turn in your application, you saw that if you live in Arizona, there's a lot of dress khakis and polo shirts. Maybe show up in dress khakis and a nice button down shirt that has a nice sheen to it. So you sort of stand out, but not too much. Michael, what do people wear to your job?
Believe me, I'm not the one you want to talk about this. I have a long ponytail and I dress like this biker guy, actually.
I love that. So if someone came to apply for your position, would you feel camaraderie with them if they looked like you? Or what if they came in like a suit and tie? What would you think?
I'm not in that position. You know what I mean? I'm never in that position. But if I was in that position interviewing, because years ago I did do public speaking, and I also was, in big companies, but for the last 30 years, I haven't been. But I mean, I would actually dress the part. I'd wear a suit. My hair would be cut. I would be clean shaven, and I would look people in the eye and talk to them and sell myself to them.
Good. I love that. Can do.
I don't have to do that anymore. So that's just why I don't.
That's good. Well, you found your niche and where you want to be. So make sure you're dressing the part. That's part of researching the employer. Know how they dress, know what the expectations are. And then I've got times here. It is appropriate to arrive 30 minutes early. Make sure you're in the vicinity of the interview within 30 minutes. Don't think, oh, it's only 10 minutes down the street. I can leave 10 minutes till the interview. No, you can't. You need to get there and be sitting in the parking lot, taking some deep breaths, reviewing the employer, and just making sure that you're ready to go in. Then you need to walk into the foyer about 10 minutes early and be nice to the receptionist or whoever greets you.
See, I'm lucky on that end too, because I'm early for everything.
That's good. That's good. So I'm a homeschooler, and something about homeschoolers is that they're late for everything. So I have fallen into that trap just a wee bit, maybe not on the professional scale, but it's like, oh.
I've fallen in the trap that I think everybody around me is late. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and that's what's interesting about our cultural moment, but I still think it's good to be early and to be on time so that you have the opportunity to put your best foot forward, because you deserve this job, because you've done everything you need to do to get here. So let's move on and just do a quick word about virtual interviews. So often you might be briefed for the first time by someone in HR on the telephone. If you're going to take a telephone interview, there are a couple of caveats. One, make sure you have service. If you do not have good service where you are, go someplace where you will, and you know that you will. Test it out with a friend from another part of the country if you can, and make sure that you have good service, that they can get in touch with you and no calls are going to be dropped. Also make sure it's radio silent around you so that they aren't having to deal with any external noise on the telephone, because you're already going to be struggling a little bit with internal noise, right? Like that psychological talk, like, oh, I hope I do good. I hope I'm listening. I'm so nervous. And having extra noise, like if you take the call in a coffee shop, that's not a very good idea, because there's a lot of stuff going on in a coffee shop. If you have kids who are going to be present, do whatever you have to do that is humane and put them somewhere where you are not. That's a joke. So I hope you're laughing. Okay, now video and digital interviews in this new world that we're living in, where a lot of us are working from home and we're able to secure those kind of positions, or it's just not feasible to go out and do the interview right away. They might want to see you. So in a video digital, make sure a couple of things. One, like I leave all this like this because I want you to see that this can be distracting. You might be trying to read what my awesome sign says back here. It says, I have flying monkeys and I'm not afraid to use them. And that's distracting, right? So for me, I would probably want to turn my computer, take off my fuzzy blanket, and try to get to a place where there's just nothing but me. If you can't have it where it's just you, make sure you have a filter on. Like, I think Karen has a filter on, right? You're not in an episode of Clue right now? Yeah, good. I love it.
No, I have a very messy room, which is why I always have a filter on.
I love that. Good for you. So make sure that those things are happening. And again, just like the telephone call, make sure there's nothing else going on around you that is going to distract you, and clear everything off of your desktop except for that interview, because it would be awful to have some, I don't know, gaming YouTube video going on and pop up into the screen and you're trying to be professional, and then they find out you're a video gamer, and just who knows what could happen. So make sure you have everything closed on your screen. So any questions about those virtual interviews? Also, do go ahead and dress the part on a video digital interview. Make sure, at least from the top up, that you look professional and that you're ready to work with them. It will also help you feel better too, because you feel different when you put on different clothes. So we are getting close to the end of this talk. Let's talk about first impressions. People size you up within the first 7 seconds. So here's some things you can do to make sure that that size up is in your favor. Offer a handshake. I have been at some things where especially young men have come up and they've shaken my hand and literally lift me off of my seat. So let's not do a firm handshake quite that. No demure handshakes, but just, shake their hand. Now, in this COVID moment, it would be appropriate to say, are you okay if we shake hands? Would you prefer a fist bump? And I don't think that anybody is going to have a hard time with that if they say, no, thank you. Now, I'm interested to know what you think, though. Let's say you're not okay with shaking hands and the employer reaches their hand out to you. What do you think is appropriate?
I think it's appropriate to politely say to them, given COVID, I prefer not to have any physical contact right now. Otherwise, I would normally shake your hand.
That's great. That's perfect, because you offer context. You're not being rude. You're just saying, this is what it is. This is the way the world is right now. Good. Very good. Eye contact. We're not going to stare into anybody's soul, but we're also going to make sure that we make appropriate eye contact with them. Smile. Not a cheesy smile, but when you're talking, let the enthusiasm for the position take over your nervousness. Be happy to be there. Offer a smile. A smile can change everything. And then finally, poise. I know that we get nervous when we do interviews, but if you're shaking your leg or fidgeting with, your shirt, pulling your hair back, talking like, when you get ready to talk, you do like some sort of nervous gesture like that. Try not to. So try to position yourself in a way where you're comfortable and relaxed, but you're not doing any fidgety behaviors. And that can take practice. And if you do find yourself doing that, don't be too hard on yourself. Just know the next time you'll do it better. You'll do it differently. Find a way to be poised and make it work for you. I'm also not opposed to asking people to help. At Bryan, we have excellent tutors that if you reached out and said, hey, can you do an interview with me? I need to practice this. I am certain that any number of the tutors or your program chairs or people in career services would be happy to help you practice interviewing. And me too, even if you're out of my class and you have an interview coming up and you want to practice, I'm happy to help. Again, keep smiling, be positive, but not like this guy. He's not very positive. He's kind of irritating. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about what you're going to do with your voice. Make sure you respond to questions with the because response. This is very similar to show and tell. I'm really glad you asked me that because X, Y, and Z. Ask questions. Try to notice lead taking behavior. Sometimes when the interviewer is completely done, they're going to start doing things like looking at their watch, shifting a little bit. They may even stand up and start walking towards the door. And if you just keep talking, it's not showing very much communication consciousness for what's happening. So ask appropriate questions, be prepared with questions before you get there. And what this person did do is establish next steps, but he kind of did it in the wrong way. So you can ask very politely, thank you for meeting with me. I'm really enthusiastic about this position. What should I expect next? And then let them tell you. Post-interview, it is really important to send a thank you and reiterate why you're a good fit and how much you enjoyed the interview. What do you think about the thank you? Do you think it should be sent text message, email, or on a piece of paper? Anybody? So I think we have an issue with snail mail these days. I think handwritten letters are awesome. If you have an opportunity to write one afterwards and then say there's a receptionist, you can walk back in and say, would you make sure that so-and-so gets this when I leave? Try something like that. If not, within 24 hours, make sure that you have sent an email to them, or if you've been communicating via text message, send a text message to thank them. Kind of let the employer lead the way on how you're going to be communicating. I think email is super common. It's what we tend to use to establish things, and always just reiterating why are you a good fit for this company? Why are you enthusiastic? And sometimes you can feel like you have a great connection with the interviewer and you don't get the job. And you should always chalk that up to any interview is a good interview. It is good practice, and it is good to be seen and continue networking. You may not get this job, but maybe that employer knows someone else who can get you another job. So that is really it. That's all I have to offer about interviewing. Do you have any questions this evening? No? Okay, cool. Well, that's a wrap. I appreciate your time so much. Thanks for hanging in there with me and visiting with me. It is a pleasure to be your instructor. So if you don't have any other questions, I'll hang out for a few minutes, but you're free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.